What's up, everybody? Eric here with another EWE Reviews. Today we're going to be talking about Ahsoka Episode 3. But before we get into that, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. But yeah, guys, I'm very curious what you guys are thinking about the show so far. I'm actually really enjoying it, so let's actually talk about it. So again, this is for Ahsoka Episode 3. The title of the episode is Part 3, Time to Fly. And this episode was released on August 29, 2023. The cast includes Rosario Dawson, Natasha Lee Bordizzo, Mary Elizabeth Winston, Ray Stevenson, Ivana Sacno, Diana Lee Inosanto. That's the main cast. Oh, and David Tennant. Oh, I can't forget about him. I should add him to my notes. He's also in it. This episode sadly does exactly what I predicted in the last episode would happen. If I'm smart, I might put a clip of what I said last time. But yeah, the episode shortened down to 35 minutes, and it is a big point for me that it went down to 35 minutes. Because you also got to think about one thing. The first, minute or two are, previously on, and the last 3 to 4 minutes are, credits. So, what the hell? We're really only getting, 30 minutes of new material, and that just does not feel fair. That feels like, there should be longer. If we're doing an Ahsoka show, it should be something like 40 minutes per episode. That's just me, guys. I thought the length of episodes 1 and 2 specifically, I thought was perfect length. I actually would prefer all the episodes to be that length. But going down below that, I think this episode did suffer a little bit because of that. So I'll get into that. But yeah, the basic plot of this episode is that we're coming off of what happened in episode 2, where Chopper threw the homing beacon on the hyperspace ship that was going away. So now Sabine and Ahsoka and Huan are now on their way to go find that ship and see where it's at. So that's the basic thing of what we're going into in this episode. I won't say anything else in the first spoiler because this is spoiler free at the beginning. I'm debating if I'm going to do this spoiler free and spoiler. Let me know in the comments if you guys want me to separate it into spoiler free and spoiler videos, just have them separate. I'm not sure what people would prefer. So let's go into my spoiler-free thoughts on the episode. So the action is amazing. This is Star Wars top-tier action in my opinion. And they have a scene for me that felt straight out of the Clone Wars, which to me is one of the best Star Wars shows. I mean, not just shows, even now I can compare it with the movies, the lore of what we got from the Clone Wars, probably one of the best things we've ever gotten out of Star Wars. One of my favorites, honestly. There's a couple arcs that I go back to and watch every few years because I think it's just that good. We also had some good developments in this episode between Sabine and Ahsoka, and we're starting to see how their relationship's going to work. I can already see that there's going to be a season-long thing that's probably going to happen near the end with Sabine. I'm actually looking forward to when that happens. I'll talk about it more in the spoiler section. And I'm starting to see how Ahsoka's training, how she's different than Anakin and the other Jedi Masters that we've seen, because she is different than the rest of them. But again, she never finished her training. And it's awesome to have a droid that's actually kind of useful for multiple things. I feel in the most part, most of the other droids we've seen, they have 1 or 2 uses, but not really too many uses. R2 can do everything with the robotics, but when it comes to fighting or anything, he's not useful. C-3PO, great with linguistics. When it comes to fighting, not really that useful. So things like that. Huan, I felt was he's a better mix of it, and I understand why this type of droid was probably used by the Jedi. The one thing is well, why didn't Anakin have one on him all the time and stuff like that? But not a big deal. And another thing that I thought was really cool, and I mentioned this in the last episode for episode 2, when we're starting to see how maybe the Empire still lives on here, we're starting to see the seeds of how the First Order does come to be, in my opinion. Not necessarily that we're seeing the First Order being made, but we're getting that idea of why the New Republic kind of failed. So I'm liking that aspect of this show. I also liked it when Mandalorian did. I like these, oh, okay, show us why the New Republic failed. I kind of want to see, show us why Luke's Jedi Academy failed as well. So I'm really excited to see all that. So let's now move on to the bad. I wanted more development with the villains at this point. I want to say we saw Morgan for very little, and she just had a few words. I forgot Ray Stevens' character's name, but he barely talked in this episode as well. And Hati's in it for a good amount, but she's just doing action sequences. And there's no problem with her action sequence, but you kind of like, you want to find out more about her, because I actually really like this character. It's like, oh, this is the Padawan. Will she eventually betray her master and things like that? Not saying that she does in this episode. I'm just saying like the seeds. I feel like with the Dark Jedi, it's always like they're always capable of killing whoever is their leader. So that's something that I thought was a cool. I mean, something I wish we had in this episode that would be cool to see. And the biggest problem with this episode that I ever talked about, it's way too short, and I will admit it did affect my score. So let's actually now move on to my score, and I'm actually gonna give this episode a 7 out of 10, and that's purely because I thought the episode was too short. I thought everything else was great, but I wanted more story development. I love the action sequences, but action alone do not like impress me anymore. And I know that's me sounding like an asshole, but it's the truth. It's like, cool, but I have so much Star Wars I can go back to and look for great action. It's like, I need more good Star Wars stories of like, okay, tell me what's going on here. Let's see these connections with these characters. Because let's admit, one of the things that really helped the original trilogy was those connections between those characters and having those conversations. It wasn't all action sequences. What was the thing that really hurt the Disney trilogy is that they focused too much on action and not those interpersonal relationships. So I'm really excited to see what they could do here, because this actually feels like Sabine and Ahsoka could have something that they can work with. So I'm actually excited to see what they do there. And a 7, again, it's good, so let's not complain about it being bad. All right, so let's actually, do I recommend this episode? Of course. I mean, the action alone is worth watching. So let's actually move on to my spoiler section, guys. So if you're not going to be joining us for a spoiler section, please watch the episode and come back and watch my spoiler section. Just because I have this one's going to be like more in line with my old reviews, where I'm going to go through the entire plot of the episode bit by bit and talk about it. So yeah, let's go into that now. So here's your warning. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, guys. So this is now the spoiler section. We're going to go through every piece of the plot, and I'll tell you what I thought about each little piece. So on the start of the episode, we're just en route to the planet. They don't know exactly what's there. They just know, hey, that hyper drive was sent there. But then we move into this cool scene where we see Sabine training with Yuan, and she's doing, trying to do things that he's asking her to do, like training-wise. She's not all that great at it, but at the same time, she's not the worst. I think her big thing is, like, yeah, she doesn't know how to use the Force yet, or we'll see what happens there. I have a theory in a minute. And like we said, we're in the spoiler section, so it's okay to talk about stuff like that. But she doesn't do the best, but she didn't do the worst. So then it's Ahsoka now wants to train her, and she's doing the thing that all the Jedi Masters always try to do. They put a visor on her so she can't see. It's like, no, you have to try and feel what things are. Your eyes can betray you. And it's just like, oh, this is really cool to see. We're seeing now Ahsoka do this. And seeing her style as a master, because it's like, we haven't seen that from her. We've seen Anakin be a master. We've seen Luke be a master. But now we get to see Ahsoka, and it's like, she's basically part of that family tree. Oh, we've seen Obi-Wan be a master. So we're seeing that part of the family tree. It's like, okay, it's really cool. Now we're seeing Ahsoka's turn at doing it. And I really like Ahsoka. Ahsoka is one of my favorite Star Wars characters. So now we're seeing her training Sabine, and we have this great moment where Sabine is starting to get it a little bit. It feels like she's getting, but then she gets frustrated and her anger gets the better out of her. And I'm like, oh, that's her Mandalorian side. It's like Mandalorians work more with anger, where Jedis a lot of times, and I'm talking about dark Jedis, like they have to keep their calm and be like, no, still keep their wits about them. But Mandalorians, that's not how they are. So I thought that was really cool to see. And then the next scene from there, if I'm not, oh no, I'm not, I skipped one section. So yeah, we finished the training. She still needs to do more, and it was cool after, like, she couldn't beat Ahsoka that way. Ahsoka's even like, again. So it's like, okay, no, Ahsoka's like, no, we're gonna keep doing this repetition. I want you to get better at this. And it's like, that reminds me of the scene from Tales of the Jedi, where Anakin was like, no, I'm gonna train you to survive. And it's like, oh, this is a really cool callback to that as well. Of like, no, Ahsoka knows that if I want to train you to survive, I'm gonna put you through every test I can. So that I really enjoyed seeing something like that. So next we go into Hera, and she's talking to some New Republic leadership from the senators and Mon Mothma. And this scene to me was a big indicator of, like, you see Hera talking to them, but then you see the senators, and you can tell Hera's a little bit pissed because they're kind of like telling her, oh, we can't waste the resources. And Hera's like, this is Thrawn. It's like, of anyone that we should waste their resources for, it is Thrawn. And they're like, oh, well, maybe you're just trying to get Ezra Bridger. It's like, do you not understand that Ezra had to give up everything to make sure Thrawn was not around. It's like Thrawn is a real threat. And I just love seeing that. Like, Hera knows the gravity of the situation, and they don't want to listen to her. She even mentions them, like, did you guys fight in the war? And a lot of them didn't. It's like, Hera knows what she's talking about. All these senators being like, oh yeah, we're helping our planets and stuff like that. But it's like, you guys didn't even sacrifice like Hera did in order for this. And even the next scene after they basically tell her no, and I can say, like, the New Republic looks so stupid. We see Jason, her son, and just looking at Jason, I'm like, damn, that's Kaden's son. It's like from Star Wars Rebels, like, that was her love. Like, when it comes to sacrifice, she knows what it is to sacrifice, because she lost the man she loved. And there's the proof, like, yeah, her son's right there. It's like, she knows, I don't want to lose him to be in another war, lose him to another war. So, like, I feel for Hera. It's like, damn, yeah, she knows what she's talking about, but her hands are tied. And this is kind of showing why the New Republic's so useless, where it's like, things need to be done, but yet a lot of these, the New Republic won't get things done. All right, so now after seeing Jason and Chopper, now we go back to Ahsoka and Sabine. And Ahsoka's trying to tell, like, start with something small. So Ahsoka shows herself moving a cup, just a basic cup. She put tea in it, I think, and she moved it. And then we see Sabine try to move it, and she's not able to do it. Here's my theory, and I'm calling it out right now. If this does show up later in the season, I will show a clip of this. I think one of the things that will be a season-long thing is eventually Sabine will be able to move it. At first, I was doubting that Sabine would be a Jedi in this show. Now I'm pretty sure Sabine's going to be a Jedi. I didn't see the point of putting the scene in there, but now it's like, why would you put that in there? Oh, because eventually she is going to be able to move it. So I thought that was really cool. I'm excited to see what they do with that. But yeah, then Ahsoka, Sabine, and Huan are inside the cockpit, and they get the call from Hera of like, oh yeah, they're not getting any help, and that sucks. But I feel like Ahsoka's like, I mean, the Republic doesn't really help her. That's kind of why I feel like she's more like freelance, does whatever. Like, she'll help, but she'll do her thing. I don't think she necessarily works for the New Republic. So now we see them get into a space battle because Hati and this other dark Jedi, I don't know his name, and I'm curious who he's supposed to be because he's wearing a mask. Part of me is worried that that's Ezra, but I'm just like, let's hope that's not Ezra. We're like, how did they get the map? Oh yeah, Ezra came back and they turned him to the dark side. I hope I'm wrong about that theory, but right now I'm like, why is his face covered? Like, we're seeing Hati and Ray Stevens' character, and it's like, why is this one guy face covered? I'm like, I don't know. I'm kind of concerned that he is Ezra, and that's why they're covering his face. But we'll see going forward. If I'm right with that one, I'm going to be pissed off. All right, so now we see they're getting into battle stations. Like, they're coming with these 6 ships, 6 fighters. Sabine has to go into the cannons in the back of the ship. I don't know the name of her Ahsoka's ship. But Sabine's shooting. She's not doing a great job at the beginning, but then we actually start seeing, like, okay, they need to work together. And this is one of those things of, like, the first episode is called Master and Apprentice. Like, you are Master and Apprentice. You need to work together to save each other's lives. One of you has strength that's one thing, another of you has a strength that's another thing. When it comes to space combat, I believe that Sabine's way better than Ahsoka, so it's like, Ahsoka, you lean on her for this. And then whenever it's something like that you need like force powers, like, oh no, this is where you focus on Ahsoka instead of Sabine. So it's gonna be cool to see this relationship grow, in my opinion. But it was awesome to see it in this scene right here. So then we see them actually be able to bring down one of the ships. They do eventually get close to they do bring down 2 more of the fighters, but then they are eventually brought down. Someone ends up shooting them and they're out. The ring's defenses end up bringing them down. So yeah, that sucked that they got brought down, but it is what it is. Like and subscribe. Then we move on to they need to get they're dead in the water, so they need to get back up. And Ahsoka's like, Sabine, can you fix it? And Sabine is able to fix it. Ahsoka's like, well, they're gonna come after us. We need some defense. And this is the scene that I say comes straight out of Clone Wars. Ahsoka puts on a spacesuit, goes outside, takes out her lightsabers, and she's defending the ship from the other fighters, like blocking the blaster fire. She even destroys one of them while she's out there. It's like, Ahsoka, you are so cool. They even had this cool scene where like she jumps over, and it's like, oh man, Ahsoka's just the coolest. But eventually, like, they get the ship back together. They end up having to go down to the planet and run away. This is when they see the Purgles. I hope I said that correctly. And these are the same space whales, basically, that took Thrawn and Ezra to the other galaxy. So it's like, they know they're on the right track. Who are the Purgles? And it's like, oh, okay. But however, they still need to do some crazy maneuvers. They do some stuff through the Purgles, and they eventually are able to get away from Hati and her other associate. And eventually they need to go hide from Hati, so they go to the forest, and they hide in there. And that's when Huan is eventually restored, and he gives them the rundown of what's going on. This is a pretty cool scene, because it's like, okay, they still need that, and that. And it kind of gives us an idea of what's going to happen for the next couple episodes. They eventually do, they get to the ring. However, we also, from going from this scene, we move over to Ray Stevens' character. Again, I will remember this character theme for the next episode. However, he's even telling his mercs that are nearby, it's like, hey, go into the forest. They're hiding in there. So I'm guessing the next episode is going to start with them in the forest. If I were to guess right now, they are not going to the hyperspace ship in the next episode, but the episode after that. I think they're going to do stuff on the planet for episode 4. Then episode 5, do stuff on the ship. Episode 6, I think they travel to the other galaxy. And at the end of that episode is where I think they find Ezra and Thrawn. 7 and 8, I don't know what happens, but this is my guess right now where things are going to happen. I'm not sure why I'm thinking it that way, but it's nice to have like a roadmap in my head. But yeah, guys, that's my thoughts on the episode. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. I would really love to know what you guys are thinking about the episode. Are you loving it? What's going on in your heads? Do you think I'm being too harsh on giving this episode a 7 out of 10? But yeah, guys, let me know what you think, and please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you soon.